Hi everyone, Donna here with Vicky Be Made Simple, and today I want to talk about, ironically, the differences between morning people and night people, and why you shouldn't be too worried about it if you don't fit into society's expectations of when you should wake up. As always, if you enjoyed these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. If you find them entertaining at all, please share the show. And Yeah, I'm kind of just speaking from my heart today. And it may not sound like this has a lot to do with business, but it kind of does. Um, I am a confirmed night owl. I have tried my entire adult life to change my chronotype. I have tried to be one of those people that gets up at 2 in the morning instead of um, stays up till 2 in the morning. I have tried to be one of those people who stays up to see the sun, gets up to see the sunrise instead of staying up to see the sunrise. I thought for years it was because of my age, because I've been like this through my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. And at first I thought it was because I was young and still living that particular lifestyle where I was up all the time anyway, because that's what my peers were doing. Um, and now I'm coming to recognize that is just how I am. Um, I am married to a morning person, which makes for some very interesting early morning conversations. He is one of those people, I swear, he acts like he sleeps in a toaster. And by that, I mean his timer goes off and he is up, bing, as if he's being ejected from the toaster, and I am still going, do not speak to me until I've had my coffee. And by coffee, I mean more than one cup. Um, so I am not fully awake until I have gotten up, gotten my shower, put my makeup on, had some caffeine, possibly some other stimulant medication because I do have ADHD. And then I am ready to conquer or make it through the morning so I can conquer the afternoon. Um, so with all that said, um, morning people are the kind of people that their eyes open and they are ready to start their day. Again, my husband's very much like that. He is awake and then he is ready to go. He's ready to talk about business. He's already thinking about things that he needs to do for one of our businesses. He's excited. He's raring to go. I, on the other hand, I have read every self-help book I feel like on the planet. I still am reading them. Right now I'm reading Indistractable, which is a really good book, but it's one of the things that keeps popping up all the way through everywhere is basically, if you're a night owl, in order to be successful, you need to be a morning person. And so I read a lot, I mean, all the way back to Benjamin Franklin, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Um, the whole world seems to start early in the morning. 9 o'clock is early in the morning to me. Um, and I still start work about 9 o'clock. Um, you go through, habits of highly successful people. Well, Oprah Winfrey wakes up at 4 in the morning. Tim Cook wakes up at 3:30. Steve Jobs woke up at 3 in the morning. And it's almost like it's a competition to see how little sleep these people can function on. In fact, Tony Robbins, I heard him say, you're sleeping your life away. Sleep is basically for the weak. And he just doesn't require a lot of sleep, evidently. And that's how my husband is. He's good. He says 3 hours of sleep a night. I think it's closer to 5. But he doesn't require as much sleep as I do. And he is an early morning chronotype, which means that when he wakes up at 5 in the morning, he is up. And if I happen to have gotten up to go to the bathroom or anything like that at 4, um, he's ready to talk about business already. And I'm still going, it's this that's not happening. Even if I'm awake, I am not awake. So, one of the things I wanted to bring out was some of us really are just night owls, and you can still be successful as a night owl. You do not have to get up at 5 in the morning to be successful. Winston Churchill famously um, didn't wake up until 2 in the afternoon. he was he was an extreme night owl, and so he would wake up, but he'd stay in bed until much later in the morning. I don't have the exact times in front of me, but he was not a morning person. He was one where he would wake up, and this is during a war, it's not like he didn't have anything to do. He would wake up and he would stay in bed for several more hours. And then about 2 in the afternoon is when he was ready to go to work, and then he would work all night. So you have to know how you function best. So I actually went and looked up some things about night owls versus early birds. And kind of how we can talk to each other. The very first thing I would say is, if you know that you live with a night owl, do not speak to them until 10 in the morning. just don't assume that they're not quite awake yet. This is probably one of the bigger points of friction in my marriage. He's, like I said, he gets up and he is raring to go. I get up and I'm like, I have to get ready. I have to drink coffee. I have to have my caffeine. I have to move around a little bit. And hopefully by 9 o'clock, I am awake enough to function. But at the same time, he is in bed and snoring by 10 p.m. every single night. He says he's not, but he's a lying liar. He's snoring by 10 o'clock. And I am not usually, I'm usually in bed by 10 because, again, I'm trying to fight against my chronotype and say that I am a morning person when I'm not. But really, I'll go to bed at 10 and I'll read until 2 in the morning because I simply cannot force myself to go to sleep before then. In his case, his feet hit the floor in the morning. He's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go. I am not that way. I am not even truly awake. Or my best time is afternoon. He kind of fizzles out by the end of the day. By 7 o'clock, he's ready to sit down, eat dinner, watch TV, and be dialing it down. By 7 o'clock, I have a ton of energy. I am, if we didn't live together, I would really be getting into my workday. And I certainly would be studying at that time. It's a lot of work for me to try to fit into his chronotype. And, after, again, his claims are slightly different than reality, at least from what I have observed, but he does not function as well late at night as I do. He is very much an early bird. So he can stay up late, but he's not fun when he does, unless it's something like something highly stimulating, such as a party. Then he's fine to stay up, but to do anything that's not stimulating, he's asleep. I, on the other hand, if I wake up early, I am dragging for the rest of the day. And I take a lot of stimulant medications. I have ADHD, so I take stimulants quite a bit just to keep my brain in check. But I am not awake in the mornings. I really have a hard time up until my mind catches up with the fact that my eyes are open. So what do you do if you're a night owl in a land full of larks? Well, one of the things that I have said is, one, I am not starting my business at 7 in the morning, which is 9 on the East Coast. The reason for that is I simply cannot function at that time. So I set my office hours for 9 to 5. Again, I am the business owner, so I get to make these decisions. And I recognize a lot of people are not. They don't have this freedom, but you'll want to find shifts and jobs that fit your circadian rhythm. So I actually, in high school, my very first job outside the home was McDonald's, and I was always on a closing shift. and I was raring to go by 3 o'clock in the morning. The problem was the whole world runs on as early birds. Early birds run the world. They're the ones that set the hours. They're the ones that determine when things close. They're the ones. Why this is the case, I do not know. I really miss the days of 24-hour Walmart because I would go shopping. I would go grocery shopping at 3 in the morning. Can't do that anymore. Walmart closes at 11 now. But you'd want to find something that fits your chronotype. So if you have a boss that's open to working from home, remote work, maybe you tell them, I do my best work on Filipino time. I do my best work on European time. We now live in a global economy, where it should be, it may take some work, it may take some digging, but you should be able to find work that complements the way you function. Can be a bit of a challenge. Again, you might be happier working with Europeans, where it's later for them. It's early morning for them, but it can be late evening for you. And you might be able to say, that's, let me work with the European team because my sleep schedule fits their core hours. Another thing to do is just recognize that all of these bosses tend to want to work early mornings. You don't have to be one of those. One of the things I noticed in a lot of the biographies, a lot of the even movies where they talk about business, is that the people that run the businesses are also able to do things like take a nap. Okay? Even if it's just a few minutes of a power nap, they're able to take a nap. Now, when I worked in corporate America and I had to get up at 6 in the morning to get my kids to school, and I was very blessed that my mom was the one that drove the school bus, so I could just have her pick them up earlier, or I could take them to her house, or they would get on the high school run, which was an earlier morning. That was fine, but I would literally fall asleep at my desk. And it was not the number of hours that I slept, it was when those hours were. And again, I have been told things like, you shouldn't be out after midnight because nothing good happens after midnight. I've been told that only the people that morning people are the only successful people. Again, I point back to Winston Churchill for a refutation of that. The people that are successful are the ones that find what times of day work for them. So I tend to get up in the morning, and it takes less active brain power to do these videos. So this is something I do first thing in the morning when my hair is fresh, my makeup is fresh, and I can sit down and talk to the camera. It takes less mental energy to do that first thing in the morning than it does to say go through and figure out IRS problems with the client's taxes. That's something I do say for after lunch. We're often told that we have to get up really early and go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm here to tell you that in my case, that is not happening. I've tried it. Let me assure you, I have tried everything I can do to be a morning person. I have tried getting up at 5 and just powering through a few days, and then hoping that my body would catch up. What happened at the end of that week was I was exhausted. I have tried going to bed early. What happens with that is I stay awake, even if I take some sort of a sedative. I just stay awake. Also, another thing to keep in mind is some people need more sleep than others, so other people need less sleep. My husband sleeps about 5 hours a day, and that seems to be what works for him. It worked very well for him when he was doing a lot of stock trading, because he could trade up until, I think he would go to bed at midnight and he'd be up at 3 in the morning to catch the futures market. And he did that for years. He would function on 3 hours of sleep. Well, now he needs about 5. And he's raring to go in the mornings. However, I need lots of sleep. And if I try, when we went to Tennessee a few weeks ago, we had an early morning flight, and I felt bad about that. I hated it for myself because I just am not a morning person. So rather than trying to get up at 2 in the morning, I actually elected to stay up until 2 in the morning because it was easier for me to just be awake for 24 hours than it was for me to wake up in the middle of my sleep cycle. It's a little bit easier because it was something I was really looking forward to, and I knew I needed to be at the airport, and I had that extra impetus of not wanting to miss my flight. But at the same time, I was leaning more towards maybe I should just stay up all night and possibly sleep on the plane, except that I don't sleep on airplanes and I don't sleep during the day. Just I just don't. That's just one of the things. So you have to figure out what really works well for you. For me, I cannot get up early. I have tried and tried and tried for many, many years. And even after I wake up, and I usually get up between 7:30 and 8, which is unbelievably early for me. That is like a normal person getting up at 4 or 5. I still understand that I am not alert as soon as I wake up, unless of course it's something like going out of town. If I'm going on a trip and I wake up, I'm usually very alert because I'm excited. But for everyday things, again, I've tried and tried and tried. I had one summer where I got up at 6 in the morning every day. I got up at 6, I would go hiking, I would get a 2-hour hike in and come back. And now I'm tired from not getting enough sleep and from going on the hike. And I did that for 3 months. I was just determined that I was going to become a morning person, and it just isn't happening. So I feel tired after waking up early. I require caffeine in order to wake up early. It takes me a long time to fully become alert. And it is a bit of a conflict in my marriage because my husband, again, he is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed the second his eyes open. He is fully awake and alert, and he's ready to go. And I am not. So it's a bit of a point of contention that I keep telling him, I require more sleep. I cannot get up at 5 in the morning consistent. I can do it once in a while, but consistently day after day after day is not happening. It has to be for something that I'm ridiculously excited about that I don't want to miss. And even then it's a struggle. So, however, a lot of CEOs and business owners want to start early. And some of that is because the majority of people really are early morning people. They don't have any problems getting up early. For those of us that do, the deck's stacked against us a little bit because this is what society has come to expect. Again, every single business book or self-help book that I have read has emphasized you need to get up at 5 in the morning and have this morning routine. And I've tried this and tried this and tried this. And what happens is I get up early, I get through my morning routine, and I'm exhausted and I want to go back to bed. And even if I try it for several months to try to force myself to become an early morning person, it does not work for me. I end up falling asleep during the day. I end up needing naps. I end up messing that up, which is really easy to do. I've tried polyphasic sleep. I have tried everything I can think of to force myself to become a morning person. And I have discovered that it is just not going to happen. So my answer now is to embrace the fact that I am an evening person, that I am a night owl, that I do better if I stay up late. So I am looking for ways to, some of the things that I do to have peace in my marriage is I will actually go to bed early with my husband. And then I will snuggle with him. I will do the things that make him feel loved and cared about, including laying in bed with him. I'll watch TV for a while. And then if I'm still wide awake at 10 and he's asleep, I will get up and do other things so that I now have some time where I'm productive. The house is quiet. I'm productive. I have shown love to my husband. So he's not feeling like he's just like we're just on completely opposite schedules. Um, and then I will go to bed at a time that works for me, which is closer to midnight, 2 in the morning. I have no energy during the day. I am doing this video I started recording at 10 o'clock this morning, and I feel like you can still see the bags under my eyes. And I am still struggling to wake up. I will be fully awake at noon. So, and then as far as the going to the gym part, I get up, I stumble um, through getting ready for the day. And that means I stumble through getting ready for the day, which means I'm in the shower about half awake. I'm hoping that I can get my eyeliner on right. I kind of operate on autopilot for that. I'm trying to make sure that I'm functional. So I get up, I'm half awake in the shower. I'm starting to wake up by the time I dry my hair, put my makeup on, that sort of thing. And then the very first thing I have to do is I have to get some sort of caffeinated beverage down the hatch. And I start doing the things that require little mental capacity very first thing in the morning. This is going to sound awful, but that includes making these videos. It does not require as much mental capacity for me to come up with a subject and make these videos. Without just, I can come up with a subject, I can make these videos, and it doesn't require quite as much mental capacity on my part as, like I said, digging through and doing complicated accounting tests. So let's talk a little bit about why some people are early birds, why some people are night owls. My personal opinion, after reading a lot of different studies, is that we were evolved that way because we are vulnerable at night as humans. We don't feel that way today because we have a lot of tools that we use to keep ourselves safe. We now live in houses, so we don't need someone to guard, that we can lock the door. So we don't necessarily need someone to guard the fort, but the fact is that as humans, we are very vulnerable during the dark hours. And so some people needed to evolve to be alert and awake overnight, or at least for the bulk of the night, so that now there's some overlap. So if I'm going to bed at 2 in the morning and my husband wakes up at 3 in the morning and he's a light sleeper, well, then I know if we were cavemen, I would at least know that I'm going to sleep as he's waking up. So there's always someone alert to guard the cave. There's actually some genetic variants linked to being a morning person. Evidently, I don't have them. Men, oh, this is interesting. The study says that 48% of women describe themselves as morning people. 39.7% of men describe themselves as morning persons. But my observations, just as being part of society, is that women need more sleep than men. And that's partly because of our biology. We bear children, we're the caregivers. We may tend to sleep lighter during some parts of our lives. But and they say that your chronotype can change over time. I am in my mid 50s, and I can tell you that so far I have not suddenly become a morning person because of my age. All that's happened is that now I'm having more problems sleeping and more problems waking up. So that may happen as I get even older, but I am not anticipating that. So what are some of the benefits? We know that most of society functions on an early bird schedule. We know that society accommodates early risers' habits much better than it does night owls. This is also, by the way, I didn't get very good grades in high school, and that was largely because I had to be up early, especially after working a late night shift. I loved my late night shifts, but then I had to turn around and get up early. And so even though I knew the material and I knew the material backwards and forwards, I tended to get C's in high school. And that was because I was just not awake. I am not awake at first period at 7:30 in the morning. I could never be a school teacher. My sister once told me she wanted me to move back to Kentucky and live close to her, which was a great loving thing to say. And then she said, you could drive a school bus. I was like, I would rather blow my brains out. I would rather take an ice pick and shove it through my eye than to be a school bus driver for a number of reasons. Number one, that means I have to get up at 5 in the morning, and that's not happening. Number two, it means I would have to deal with 60 kids on the bus, and that's also not happening. Number three, I don't like to drive that much. I like to drive little sporty cars. I don't want to drive a bus. So there was a lot of reasons. And number four is I couldn't make any money doing it. So I was like, there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to be a school bus driver. And at the very top of that list is I'd have to get up early, and I know that I am not functional first thing in the morning. However, that is what society expects. That's why we have early morning schools, even though the science says and the studies show that by moving high school hours later, to have the high school actually start at 9 instead of at 6 or 7:30, the students do better because teenagers do tend to have the night owl chronotype. And they also are in a very strong growth mode. Their bodies are growing. They require more sleep. They're just night owls. Teenagers are night owls, and they require more sleep than you think. So, however, even though society is built for early risers, and like I said, you can see that in all of the literature, all of the self-help books, all of the one of the people that I follow on YouTube, Amy Landino, she advocates getting up at 5 in the morning and going through this long routine. And I'm like, I cannot. You know what happens if I get at 5 in the morning? I am falling asleep trying to journal. I am not functional. So what I have discovered has worked for me is I get up and I start my day at 9. I get up between 7:30 and 8. I take my time to get ready for the day because I am just not awake and alert as soon as I roll out of bed. It takes me some time to become alert. And then I will then take advantage of my late rising, and I will do things like my fitness time is at the gym. It's at lunchtime. It's not at 5 in the morning. I'm not able to deal with other people at the gym at 5 in the morning. I have discovered that if I do it at 1 in the afternoon, I can start my day a little bit earlier. I can end my day a little bit later, and I can go to the gym at a time that works for me. Again, that's one of the advantages of being the boss. It's my business, so I can block that time out on my calendar. But I also encourage my employees to do the same thing. If you want to have time to go work out, and mornings and evenings don't work out for you, find some time in the middle of the day, and you can work early. You can start work earlier, or you can end work later, and you can adjust your schedule to one that works for you. Not all bosses are that flexible. I'm aware of that, but this is what works for me. Is my lunchtime has become my workout time. One of the things about night owls, we tend to be alert more hours of the day. Yeah, it takes us a while to wake up. But once we're awake and alert for a long time. So, and night owls tend to have higher IQs. So the early morning people have trouble in social situations because they're morning people, they need to go to bed early. And so I have laughed, we have friends that do go to bed at some, they're conked out by 8 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, and the rest of us are raring to go. And so we can't do anything late at night with these particular friends because they're exhausted by the end of the day. So one of the things to do to adjust for that would be, if you have early birds and night owls trying to get together and have a social event, nighttime might not be the best time to do it. The early birds are going to want to go to bed early. The night owls are going to want to stay up all night. So like I do with my workouts, you could find maybe you do your socializing on Saturday earlier in the evening so that so the early birds can get their socializing in, and then the night owls can stay up all night if they want. But you'd have to remember, kind of keep that in mind, that if you know people that are early birds, that means they go to bed early, they might not be able to fit into your party until 2 a.m. So then that's where the big problem comes with early birds, is that they get up early. Society encourages that, but then they also fizzle out early in the evening. So all of us night owls are then ready to go. And by the way, night owls tend to have a higher IQ. So now there's a lot of advice out there on how to change your sleep schedule. I have tried it all, and I have not found that any of it works for me personally. So, and I've tried all of it. I have tried no electronics before bed. I have blue light filters in all my electronic devices. I stick to the same schedule every day. I am still not going to get up at 5 a.m. That's never, ever, ever going to happen. I really don't think it will. If it does, I'm going to assume I'm sick. So some of the things you can do, if you're a night owl and you need to get up early, some of the things you can do to become more alert earlier in the day is to go outside as soon as you get up, or as soon as you are decent to go outside, and get some of the natural sunlight on your skin. That does help. It does not help for me to go to the gym first thing in the morning, although that's often what they recommend. Exercise first thing in the morning just wears me out. I do my exercise later in the day. But if I get up and I just go outside and I am in the sunshine and I stretch, just a couple of stretches, that does help me to get my body to say, like, oh, it is time to wake up now. I just laugh. I'm kind of reading this article where it says, oh, shift your sleep schedule gradually. If you're a night owl, just embrace it. That would be my advice. Do not feel like you have to get up at 5 a.m. to be successful. Figure out the times that work best for your body. You'll be fighting yourself your whole life if you are a night owl and you try to become a morning person. And vice versa. If you're an extreme morning person and you get up at 3 a.m. and you're ready to go, find a way to embrace that. That is kind of what society says we should do. But you can you can find some compromises. So I would say, understand your chronotype and learn what works for you. It seems like all the advice that I see is about fighting who you truly are. There's times when that's appropriate. And I saw a viral video that I want to address in a later video, talking about why we have to be professional at work. I'm going to address that in a later video, but for the purposes of things like sleep, this is something that's hardwired into us. I would not try to change my sleep schedule. I've tried for years and years and years and years and years, and I have discovered that it doesn't work. So I have scheduled myself for later in the day. I have employees actually that start work before I do. A couple of my girls are morning people, so they'll start at 7 in the morning and they will clock out at 3, and I'm fine with that because I want them to work on a schedule that works for them. Now, our core business hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I am very interested in making sure that that happens. But that just means I want to make sure the phones are covered from 9 to 5. And I have multiple ways of doing that. It does not mean that I have to insist on a 9 to 5 work schedule. What I do is I allow my employees to find the time that works best for them. They need to find their own core hours, so to speak. So I have one gal that works from about 7 in the morning and they work until 3, and that's fine with me. I work from 9 to 5. I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock because I'm finishing my master's degree. And so I want to make sure that I have time to stop, make sure dinner's ready, the house is clean, and then I have time to study. And then the other compromise that I make is inside my marriage, where I will actually go to bed with my husband and lay in bed with him for a while because that's how he feels love. And I'll wait for him to go to sleep. And then I'll get up and finish doing some of the things that I wanted to do around the house, because otherwise I don't feel like I have enough time, because I'm not awake until later in the day. And so I want to make sure that I get up, that I am spending quality time with him. And then once he is happy, I can stay up as late as I need to get some other things done. And that may include study, that may include quiet housework. So I'm not inclined to run the vacuum cleaner after he's asleep, but I will probably do things like move the laundry through. I may mop the floor, do some things that are quiet. I'll shut the door to our bedroom to make sure that he has uninterrupted sleep. And I've just learned to embrace it. So I start a little bit later in the day. Again, I have some flexibility with that because I'm the business owner. But if you are a confirmed night owl like I am, and you are struggling in the mornings because of your work schedule, I would suggest talking to your boss and telling them that, you know, I know you want the office to open at 7, but I really am not going to be much use to you until 9. But I'm happy to stay till 5 instead of leaving at 3. So there may be a possibility for some compromise. I'm happy with whatever my employees choose to do. It's not a big deal for me. They are very, very good at what they do. So I'm comfortable offering that level of flexibility. And then some of the other things that they recommend: no electronics at least an hour before bed. Well, that doesn't work for me either, because the way that I fall asleep is to read myself to sleep. I will get the things done that I need to do after Chris goes to sleep. And then and he complains about it, that I have to read. And it happens that all of my books are on my tablet. So I have a blue light blocker on my tablet. And I cannot tell you how many times I've fallen asleep with my glasses still on my face and my tablet open. And then when he wakes up in the morning, he just takes it and puts it away for me. But that's how I fall asleep. So it's one of those things I was like, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not really surfing social media. I don't read anything that's going to get me riled up. So I stay off of Reddit. I stay off of social media. I stay off of the news sites at night so that I have laughed and said, I find some of the most boring things in the world to read, but then I get interested in it. So, for example, right now, in order to fall asleep, I'm reading the history of modern Europe. And the problem with that is I'm a history buff. So it started off kind of boring, and now I'm like, wow, this is the interesting part. I want to stay up and read it. But what I don't read at night is anything that's going to drag me into the story. Danielle Steele is one of my guilty pleasures. It's a very formulaic. You can almost look at the book and tell how the story is going to end. But at the same time, I get sucked into it, and then I want to finish the book before I go to sleep. And then I want to start a new book because I'm in the book reading mindset, and that's not good for my sleep. So I will actually choose things that I think are going to be boring. It can't be my textbooks for school, because that takes a lot of mental capacity. It has to be something that's fairly light, that it doesn't matter if I miss half of what I'm reading. Again, parts of history that I find less interesting than others. I'm very interested in World War II, partly because I lived in Germany, but at the same time, 1848 Europe is not the most interesting period of history to me. So I may decide to read something like that, or I may read about the Wars of the Roses, or the Cousins' War, as it was known at the time. Simply because I've read so many books about the Wars of the Roses that it's very familiar. And even though I'm reading a different book about the same time period, I already know how that story ends. So I don't have to stay up for that. They say to limit your caffeine intake. Well, that, again, your mileage may vary. I have ADHD. You know what caffeine does for me? It doesn't necessarily wake me up. It wakes me up in the morning, but I can also go to sleep immediately after having a pot of coffee. That's not a problem for me. So understand how your body functions. Don't necessarily listen to all of this advice that's designed to force you to be someone you're not. Okay. And understand that if you're a night owl, like I am, even though the whole rest of the world seems to function on an early morning schedule, you can find ways to make this your superpower. I'm still looking for those ways, because I still keep trying to force myself to be an early bird. But I am looking for ways to make sure that this becomes a superpower for me. So I find things, again, I have scheduled my gym time to be later in the day at lunchtime rather than first thing in the morning. And I don't like people well enough to want to go in the evening when everybody's off from work. I can't take naps during the day, because I promise you, if I take a nap at 1 in the afternoon, I will still be asleep at 5, and then I'm no good to anybody. So if I'm taking naps, it's usually because there's something medically wrong with me in some way. But when I did used to nap a lot, it was because my thyroid was out. I started on natural desiccated thyroid. I understand a lot of doctors do not like to prescribe this, but this is what works very well for me. And now I'm able to stay awake and alert a lot longer. But it's not going to change my wake up time. Okay. So I never take naps. I don't worry about my caffeine intake. I do tend to stop drinking a lot of caffeine by noon, but I don't worry about it. So because I know even if I drink a monster at 5 in the evening, I can still go to sleep when my body tells me I can go to sleep. So my caffeine intake is not going to make a big difference. And that is largely because I'm ADHD. And when I drink caffeine, it slows my brain down to the point that I can actually sleep. They always say, stick to the same sleep schedule. I say, if you're a night owl trying to be an early morning person, you might need that Saturday to get your sleep caught up. It is hard to work against chronotype. Understand that all this means is that your body is different from other people's bodies. And if we were all the same, how boring would life be? So that is what I wanted to talk about today, early birds versus night owls. And whichever one you are, embrace it and make it your superpower. And I will talk to you again soon.